The warrior type is one of the more populous and beloved types in Yu-Gi-Oh!, being used by multiple protagonists throughout several Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. Whether it's Arcana Knight Joker or number 39 Utopia, there's a warrior monster to fit anyone's personal flavor. For this list, however, we'll be focusing on the best warriors and warrior support cards from the classic era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Before synchro monsters made their debut. And starting off at number 10, we have the Marauding Captain, a level 3 Earth Warrior monster with 1200 attack. He was first released in 2003's Legacy of Darkness and was most recently reprinted in 2024's Quarter Century Bonanza. Marauding Captain's effect is that when it's on the field, your opponent can't attack warrior monsters except for him. Additionally, when it's normal summoned, you can special summon a level 4 lower monster from your hand. Marauding Captain can help preserve your more important warrior monsters by taking the hit for them, and an interesting interaction occurs when there are two captains on the field at once. Since both captains say you can only attack them, your opponent is unable to attack either captain or any other warrior monster you control. Konami was initially worried about this interaction being used to stall the game, and placed Marauding Captain on the semi-limited list in July of 2003, 1 month after its printing. Konami reversed this decision with the release of the October 2005 Forbidden list, probably because the interaction wasn't as strong as they feared. The other half of Marauding Captain's effect proved useful for swarming the field for future tribute summons, as your opponent would need to destroy both monsters in one turn to prevent that. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, Gurumo used Captain's effect to summon Shadow Tamer in his duel against Yami Yugi, and Joey Wheeler used Captain to summon Battle Warrior in his duel against Veilon. Additionally, many students in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime appear to be fond of this card, with it being used in 6 different episodes. While Marauding Captain's special summon effect is good, it was actually a little better after the classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Era. Captain's effect could be used to summon a tuner monster from hand to make a level 4 to 7 synchro monster. Additionally, he could summon another level 3 to go into a rank 3 XC summon. As nice as those capabilities are, this list is about classic Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is why he's so low on our list. The 9th spot on our list goes to Zombyra the Dark, a level 4 Dark Warrior monster with 2100 attack. Though with a name like that, you'd think he'd be a zombie. He was first released in 2003's Labyrinth of Nightmare, and in 2023 when reprinted in June's Lost Art promotion. Zombyra the Dark can't attack an opponent directly, and when it destroys a monster by battle, it loses 200 attack permanently. It was common in early Yu-Gi-Oh! To put a negative effect on a level 4 monster with more than 1900 attack, with Zombyra's colleagues Dark Elf, Goblin Attack Force, and Sousa Soldier having their own unique drawbacks. Zombyra's drawbacks proved to be the easiest to work with, since its 2100 attack was able to destroy pretty much any other normal summoned monster. Even after he destroys 2 monsters, he would still have a respectable 1700 attack. And it doesn't even have to stay that way. If you can flip Zombyra face down using a card like Book of Moon and then flip it back up, it will start back at 2100 attack again. Another way to avoid Zombyra's negative effect is to use them alongside Skill Drain, which just negates them outright. If Zombyra is destroyed, it's not a tragedy as it's Dark attribute, which can be used to fuel to summon a monster like Chaos Sorcerer and Blackluster Soldier Envoy the Beginning, as both need to banish a light and dark monster from your grave to summon themselves. Zombyra the Dark is a strong monster, but he doesn't have much going for him besides that, which is why it isn't higher on this list. In the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, it's based on an in-universe comic character, Zombyra, who seems to be based on Spawn. He surprisingly never had an anime appearance, unlike the next card on our list. And at number 8, we have the fan favorite, Gearfried the Iron Knight. It's a level 4 Earth Warrior monster with 1800 attack and 1600 defense, and was first released in 2002's Pharaoh's Servant. Gearfried the Iron Knight's effect is that if either player equips him with an equipped card, destroy that equipped card. Initially, this seems like a niche protection against your opponent's Snatch Steal, but that completely changes when you equip Gearfried with cards that want to be destroyed for a benefit. Some great examples of this are Black Pendant, which burns your opponent for 500 life points when destroyed, Blast with Chain, which turns into a targeted card destruction when it's destroyed by a card effect, and Smoke Grenade to the Thief, which when destroyed by a card effect allows you to look at your opponent's hand and discard one of their cards. All of these effects are great, and yet they pale in comparison to what Gearfried the Iron Knight can do with Butterfly Dagger Elma, which has the effect that when it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, it returns to the hand. This means the dagger will continuously recycle itself when it's equipped to Gearfried. While this interaction does nothing on its own, when combined with other cards, it can have devastating results. Comboed with Royal Magical Library, a monster that gets a spell counter every time you play a spell, and you can then remove 3 to draw a card, you'll be able to draw your entire deck, which could easily lead to a victory via Exodia the Forbidden One. Other options include Magical Marionette, which uses the spell counters it generates to destroy monsters on the field, Spell Absorption, which gains you 500 life points every time you play a spell, and if you can get Fire Princess on field at the same time, you can burn your opponent for 500 life points every time you gain life. All of these interactions led to Butterfly Dagger Elma getting limited in February of 2004 and later banned in April of 2005, where it has stayed since. In the anime, Gearfried the Iron Knight was one of Joey Wheeler's most reliable monsters. Although Joey never used Gearfried's effect to the extent that TCG players have, it did come in clutch during his fight against Weevil Underwood, who was using the effect of Reckless Parasite to equip Parasite tokens to Joey's monsters, turning them into insects. Gearfried the Iron Knight effect is game-breaking when the stars align, but you still need other cards to make them work. However, the next monster on our list is just great on its own. And at number 7, we have the leader of the Dark Scorpions himself, Don Zaloog. He's a level 4 Dark Warrior with 1400 attack and 1500 defense, and was first released in 2003's Pharaonic Guardian. When Don Zaloog inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can either discard one random card from their hand, or send the top 2 cards of their deck to the graveyard. Being able to discard cards from your opponent's hand is extremely powerful, with an entire deck being dedicated to doing so in GOAT format. In Hand Assault, Don Zaloog is the star of the deck, and is played at 3 copies alongside Spirit Reaper and Drop Off. Despite older Yu-Gi-Oh's access to powerful cards like Pot of Greed and Graceful Charity, the game hadn't yet evolved the consistent card advantage engines we use today, and running out of cards in hand wasn't uncommon. Don Zaloog's effect is simpler than most other hand rip effects available. Perhaps only second place Delinquent Duo in the effectiveness for GOAT format. While Don's discard effect is usually the one chosen between the 2 options, the 2-card mill is no slouch. When combined with Necro Valley, the cards sent by Don Zaloog are effectively stuck there, unless those cards can leave the graveyard from their own effects, hampering Chaos decks as well as cards like Magician of Faith. In Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Don Zaloog was more than just a card, he was a character. In the episode The Dark Scorpions, the spirit of the card, Don Zaloog, took physical form and disguised himself as an imitation of Sherlock Holmes with a Christopher Walken accent. Isn't Yu-Gi-Oh! Great? Don Zaloog was the 4th Shadow Rider, and along with the other Dark Scorpions, was attempting to open the Spirit Gate to retrieve the Sacred Beast cards, failing to do so after losing his duel with Chaz Princeton. And at number 6 in our list, we have Mystic Swordsman Lv2, a level 2 Earth Warrior monster with 900 attack. It was first released in 2004 Soul of the Duelist as a rare and ultimate rare, this set being the first to introduce both level monsters and the ultimate rarity. Mystic Swordsman Lv2's effect is that if it attacks a face-down monster, destroy that monster at the start of the damage step. During the end phase, if Swordsman did destroy a monster by battle this turn and is still face up, you can send it to the graveyard to special summon Mystic Swordsman level 4 from your deck. Flip monsters were heavily used during the classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Era, with many of them having powerful effects. Even with many decks playing Nobleman of Crossout, there was still a need for more anti-flip cards. Mystic Swordsman level 2 is perfect for this, because his effect destroys the monster at the start of the damage step before they flip to activate their effects. Without their defense stat coming into play, it makes Swordsman ideal for taking out all those face-down monsters. In fact, this card is commonly used alongside Book of Moon to take out bosses. Mystic Swordsman level 2's second effect to level up to a level 4 version of himself is rarely actually used, mostly because a level 4 version can't be normal summoned, making it a Garnet. Mystic Swordsman level 2 might be the ultimate answer to flip monsters, but his 900 attack leaves something to be desired. It's fairly easy to run over him with most normal summons from classic Yu-Gi-Oh!, a problem our next monster attempts to address. And slicing to the number 5 spot is Blade Knight, a level 4 light warrior monster with 1600 attack and 1000 defense. It was first released as one of the options for the 2004 collectible tins, and was most recently reprinted in the 25th anniversary Ultimate Kaiba set. Blade Knight's effect is that it gains 400 attack while you have 1 or less cards in your hand. While you control no other monsters, if Blade Knight destroys a monster by battle, its flip effects are negated. While Blade Knight has more conditions to its effects than Mystic Swordsman level 2, it also has more staying power. 1600 is a very respectable attack stat line for the time, and the potential of bumping up to 2000 in a pinch helps a lot. But while most flip effect monsters have low defense stats, there's one notable exception. Gravekeeper Spy has 2000 defense and the ability to summon another copy of itself with its flip effect, making it one of the best ways to flood the field for tribute summoning powerful monsters like Dark Magician of Chaos and Jinzo. As a result, many players will run a copy of 2 Mystic Swordsman level 2 alongside a full set of Blade Knights. Outside of that scenario though, Blade Knight is often preferred, with some benefits being its light attribute, which can be used in Chaos variants of warrior decks, and its high attack allowed to be used in King Tiger Wengu decks. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, Blade Knight was used heavily by Seto Kaiba in the Battle City Finals, seen play in the Battle Royale, as well as in his matches against Yami Yugi and Joey Wheeler. And at number 4 on our list, we have the big bad Blackluster Soldier, Envoy the Beginning. It's a level 8 light warrior monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense, and first released in 2004's Invasion of Chaos. Blackluster Soldier, Envoy the Beginning can't be normal summoned or set. Instead, he must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 1 light and 1 dark monster from your graveyard. On the field, he can activate one of 2 effects once per turn. The first effect is to target 1 monster on the field, then banish it, with the caveat that Blackluster Soldier can't attack the turn the effect is activated. The second effect is that if Blackluster Soldier destroys a monster by battle, it can make a second attack in a row. For a lot of GOAT format decks, Blackluster Soldier is the boss monster. While he doesn't specifically do much for warrior-themed decks, many warrior decks feature an abundance of light and dark monsters. Although, if your warrior deck is running the Warrior Returning Alive, it could be used to return a Blackluster Soldier from the graveyard to your hand. In the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Dimitri steals Yugi's deck while it's in the Exhibition Tour, and summons Blackluster Soldier Envoy the Beginning against Jaden Yuki, who is attempting to get the deck back. Dimitri banishes Karibo and Watapon for Blackluster Soldier's summoning condition, and uses the effect to attack twice in a row, although the second attack is negated by Hero Spirit. Blackluster Soldier would be banned in October 2005, where it would stay banned until September 2011, well past the classic era of Yu-Gi-Oh! While it was probably the strongest warrior at the time, there were more useful warrior cards available. Better hide your wallets because at number 3, we have the Exiled Force, and they'll most certainly snatch it from you. This roving ragtag group of ruffians is a level 4 Earth Warrior monster with 1000 attack and defense, and was first released in 2004's Legacy of Darkness. Exiled Force's effect is that you contribute it to target 1 monster on the field, then destroy it. Have a powerful monster on the field? Well, you don't anymore. Being able to pop any monster that doesn't have immunity to card destruction effects is obviously a good thing. However, what if I told you that Exiled Force is even more busted than you think? You see, in the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh!, there was Ignition Effect priority, meaning you can activate your Ignition effects during your summon response window. Now, I know that can be a bit confusing, so I'll break it down for you. Let's say my opponent controls a monster and a face-down trap hole. Then I summon Exiled Force. I can activate Exiled Force's effect on summon because I'm the turn player and I have priority, meaning it gets tributed for cost before it can get destroyed by my opponent's trap hole that would have chained in response to Exiled Force's summoning. Obviously, that's not how it works in the modern game, but that change didn't take place until April of 2012, with the introduction of Master Rule 2. With the power to take down most monsters in the game, Exiled Force found its way on the limited list in July of 2003, where it stayed until September 2006. Being pushed up to semi-limited. Force would eventually become unlimited in March of 2007, as the game was quickly leaving it behind. In Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's, Yusei Fudo uses Exiled Force in his fight against Mr. Armstrong. Yusei attacks and destroys one of Armstrong's Iron Chain snakes using Exiled Force, and then tributes it to destroy Armstrong's Iron Chain Repairman. And coming in at second place at number 2, we have D.D Warrior Lady, a level 4 light warrior monster with 1500 attack and 1600 defense. She was first released in 2003's Dark Crisis and has been reprinted 15 more times since then. D.D Warrior Lady's effect is that when she battles an opponent's monster, after damage calculation, you can banish that monster and then banish her. This works even if neither monster would be destroyed by the battle, and regardless of whether she is attacking or defending. While Exiled Force destroys a monster, D.D Warrior Lady banishes a monster, which doesn't seem like a big difference if you haven't played GOAT format before. 2 extremely common cards used in most GOAT format decks are Premature Burial and Call the Haunted, both of which can revive a monster from the graveyard. If you banish your opponent's monster, you won't be able to revive them, permanently removing them from the game in most situations. While there are 2 cards that can fetch banished monsters back, Dimensional Fusion and Return from the Different Dimension, those cards are usually only played in decks that plan to banish a lot of their own monsters. Funnily enough, both of those cards feature D.D Warrior Lady on them, as she has pretty much become the icon of the different dimension. But back to the point. Banishing hurts a lot more than destroying does in classic Yu-Gi-Oh!, making it a staple in any deck with the space for it. With such a powerful effect and universal use, D.D Warrior Lady was slapped on the limited list in April 2005, where she stayed until September 2009. D.D Warrior Lady is clearly a champion in her own right, but this top spot on the list should be obvious to anyone who's ever played a warrior deck. It's the kind of card that other monster types wish they had in the classic era. However, before we move on to the final entry, let's go over some honorable mentions. Frontier Wise Man is a level 3 Earth Spellcaster monster with 1600 attack and 800 defense that was first released in 2003's Legacy of Darkness. He has the effect that negates any spell cards that target warrior monsters you control, then it destroys the spell card. This effect works even if the card targets multiple warriors at once, and works on any equipped spells, including your own. Wiseman is really good at protecting your warriors, and gets even better when combined with DNA Surgery, which can change all your monsters into warriors. Sasuke Samurai is a level 2 Wind Warrior with 500 attack and 800 defense that was first released in 2003's Pharaonic Guardian. It has the same effect as Mystic Swordsman level 2, bar the level up mechanic, and acts as a slightly worse version of it in most cases. Sasuke Samurai is useful for wind attribute decks, however, which often utilize Flying Kamakiri number 1, the wind attribute battle search, to flow directly into Samurai. The Warrior Returning Alive is a normal spell card, which was first released in 2004's Legacy of Darkness, and can target one warrior in your graveyard and return it to your hand. While this playground favorite card isn't a bad card, it's much better to simply use cards like Premature Burial and Call of the Haunted to summon that monster back from the graveyard, preserving your normal summon. Lastly, Freed the Matchless General is a level 5 Earth Warrior monster with 2300 attack and 1700 defense, and was also released in Legacy of Darkness. His first effect is to negate any spells that target him on the field when it resolves, and then destroy that spell. His second effect is that during the draw phase, instead of drawing a card, you can add a level 4 or lower warrior monster from your deck to your hand. While this effect is good, it takes a tribute summon to summon Freed just to do something the top card on our list could do for free. And if it wasn't obvious, Reinforcements of the Army is our number 1. This normal spell was first released in 2004's Legacy of Darkness and has been reprinted over 30 times. Reinforcement of the Army's effect is that you can add one level 4 or lower warrior monster from your deck to your hand. This effect isn't once per turn, so if you draw multiple, they aren't bricks. Reinforcement can search for most of the monsters on this list, and while some of these monsters were limited at the time, Reinforcements was semi-limited, meaning that it can effectively be a toolbox for your warrior deck. Reinforcement of the Army quickly became a staple in all warrior decks, with its long name quickly being shortened to Rhoda by the player base. While the search is the obvious benefit of using Rhoda, the ability to selectively thin your deck makes it act more like an efficient upstart goblin. If you can Rhoda a card out first, you can then guarantee you don't draw that card when you use Pot of Greed or Graceful Charity. The impact Rhoda has had on classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Can still be felt today in its limited status, and in how the term Rhoda became Yu-Gi-Oh! Slang for any card that searches another card from your deck. Many new archetypes have a version of Rhoda built in engine, so it's easily understandable why the OG Rhoda is at the top of this list. Alright, and that's our list. There's actually more great warriors and support from classic Yu-Gi-Oh!, but there's no way to fit them all into one list. If you have any suggestions for a part 2 to this video, or have a list idea of your own, let us know down in the comments below.